Welcome to Talking Grit, a Detroit Lions podcast. Powered by the Monroe County Reporters. Here are your hosts, Jason Harwood and Jacob Litton.
All right, welcome everybody to Talking Grit. I'm Jason Harwood, and with me is Jacob Litton. Next week is going to mark our 1 year since we started doing this podcast. To celebrate, we've invited not just a guest, but a huge guest, someone we all know. You've seen his hilarious videos on YouTube. He's visited 30 NFL stadiums in 30 days. He's raised over $1 million for charity. It's NFL Fan of the Year in 2023. It's Tom Grossi. Welcome to the show, Tom.
Guys, thanks so much for having me. And I like how you introduced it too, because then I was, usurped by Megan, who is now the 2024 reigning defending NFL Fan of the Year. So, it's
Lions represented, right?
Got to get in there. Got to do that charity. It was great. No, Megan's awesome. She's raised, I think, like $30,000 for charity. And so it was super awesome to see her win.
Yeah, that's great. It's a good brotherhood, sisterhood to be involved in, I'm sure.
Oh, yeah. We meet every Thursdays. It's wonderful.
Oh, that's good. Yeah. Special key cards. You get to go in a special room. Roger Goodell greets you and all sorts of things.
We get 5% off at the pro shop. None of this is real, by the way. We do not. They give us no discounts.
Nice.
I'm sure you got a hat that says NFL Fan of the Year. Did you at least get that?
I got it. So there's this, of course. There's the trophy, and then Captain Morgan, because they're the ones who sponsor it. They sent, and it wasn't just it was for all the individual fans of the year. We got a jacket. So the jacket's pretty cool. It's nice Letterman jacket.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. All right, Tom, we're going to start right on here. We know we're on a time crunch. We're going to get going here. So one thing I'm always struck with, when I'm watching your videos, which are hilarious, by the way, you can speak to all these different fan bases. So I know when you're talking as a Lions fan, I really feel like you know what's going on in my head or in our realm. So how do you do that? I mean, how do you stay in touch with so many different fan bases?
So, it's super easy because once I did the 30 stadiums in 30 days, I just went and bugged fans in every single city, for their opposing team. So I'm just listening all the time. So, most intimate moments, but also when you're cheering for the Lions. But no, it's honestly it's been years, right? So I watch so much football, and this is my 10th year in doing this show. And the way that the show started was each week I would bring on a fan from the opposing team, right? So I interviewed Lions fans 2 times a year, Bears fan 2 times a year, and then so I interviewed all 32 fan bases for years. And so that's where you first to start get that perspective, right? Of what's going on. And then once I started to just go beyond Packers, I was like, okay, well, let me start within the division, right? Because then that's going to kind of make me more informed about the rivals that we're going to play and all that. So the Lions, the Vikings, and the Bears, that came really easy just because I was interacting with so many fan bases and what have you. So now over the years, as I've been doing the, all 32 teams, whether it's every fans or whether it's individual season reactions, it's important that the accuracy is there, right? So if the Lions release some obscure offensive lineman that the entire fan base is happy about, it's important that I say something about that and not just gloss over it. So honestly, it's gotten to a point where not only is just watching football, but it's just a ton of research. it's going on message boards, it's going, on social media. And so, but it's also, there are 32 fan bases represented in the chat every single time that I'm live, and I'm streaming every primetime game for the past, oh boy, I think this is the 5th year in a row that I'm going to be doing that. And so I think it's just an accumulation of knowledge and then just kind of staying current and staying with the pulse of what's going on with each fan base, just to, do my due diligence and also represent them. And a team like the Titans, for example, who doesn't get a lot of media coverage, make sure that their fans are going to be accurately represented by maybe, not ESPN, but they will be here.
Nice.
You can tell. You do a great job.
I appreciate that. Yeah, listen, I know that my comedy or my just it's not for everyone. That's totally cool. That's totally respectable. There's a million great creators on the internet and also on YouTube. But it's also just if I'm going to do this, right? I want it to be entertaining, of course, but I want it to be accurate, right? So a Dolphins fan could be oh, yeah, that is how I'm feeling. And you're never going to get everybody across the board because you can't just generalize and be this is what all Dolphins fans feel. But, just try to get as close as possible.
Right.
Also, I just noticed the Brian Branch jersey in the background. Is that always there, or is that just...
That's really funny because that's going to lead into...
that's my question coming up here.
I had it. It's always there, but I turned it around so you could see his name this time. Usually it's the other way around, but glad you caught that.
It's so great because I was like, I don't know if it's into, because it could also just be like, hey, you like Brian Branch, he's a good player, but
I love Brian Branch. I mean, I got 3
I bet
jerseys
you
and he's
do.
one of them,
I
but
bet
yeah.
you do.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So let's lead into it here. So do you think Brad Holmes subscribes to your channel and steals the players you like on purpose? Why does this keep happening to you?
Jacob, this is the first year, and I want to say like 4 years that he didn't take a guy that I was like had circled for the Packers. You know, the because Jamison Williams, like he was another guy I was like, crap, I really did not want the Lions to get him. So J-Mo was on there, you know, Terry and Arnold that 1 year, but no, Brian Branch was a guy that it was such a drastic need for the Packers. Like we had nobody at safety. This is before Javon Bullard, this is before Xavier McKinney. And he's good in the run game. So I was like, oh, this is perfect. Like we could put him at a CB if we wanted to. He could do whatever. And so that was a nightmare. But for a while, I was thinking, and I had a chance. It wasn't this past year, but it was last year that I met Brian Branch and his brother. And we just happened to run into each other. That I was, it was for Fan of the Year. I was able to get into Radio Row for the Super Bowl last year. And that was my first time there. Like it was a very surreal experience. And this guy just runs up to me. He goes, "You're Tom Grossi." And I was like, "Oh, hey, man, what's going on?" He goes, "I'm Brian Branch's brother. I love your content." He's like, "Thank you so much." And then I met Brian, and they had a good old laugh about that, too. So I'm glad that I could provide that entertainment. But yeah, Brad Holmes, just stop, please.
Yeah.
Please stop watching.
Yeah.
Unsubscribe. Turn those notifications off.
All right. So speaking of the draft, it was in Green Bay this year. I'm sure you had a blast. So overall, how did you like the event? And we got to know, were you nervous getting up on the stage and talking? I mean, you're talking with people all the time. You're talking with more people on your YouTube than you were probably out there watching. But now you were out there live. So were you nervous or what was your feelings?
Yeah, I mean, like there was just so much going into this draft, right? Because so after Fan of the Year last year, there was other fans of the year from their respective teams who were like, hey, because of this, we can announce a draft pick at this year's draft. And I was like I didn't know that was a thing. And it was, of course, in Detroit that year. And nothing against Detroit. I love Detroit when I went to for 30 and 30. But at that point, it had already been announced that the draft was going to be in Green Bay, right? And for me, this is something that's been almost a decade in the making, just from knowing Mark Murphy for 9 years and just the work that has gone into trying to get the draft to Green Bay. And so it was a very like personal, like, oh man, like I'm going to be there regardless, you know, regardless of what happens. But if there was ever a time to announce a draft pick, it's in Green Bay, Wisconsin, right? Like the stars couldn't align more perfectly. And like it was a challenge, you know, like there was a lot of people who went to bat for me because I do not have the influence that many people think I do. And it got to a point where I was told on Monday by Mark that it was happening. But even then, like there's no guarantees. And on Saturday, so Sorrell, the guy that we drafted in the 4th round, he happened to be in Green Bay and it was an awesome clip, but Goodell wanted to come out. And so he wanted to introduce him. So it pushed all the Packers presenters down. And if Goody trades, I don't get a draft pick, right? Like that's not going to happen. So there was a little nerves, I think, kind of just the day of, because I didn't believe it was happening until, you know, I'm backstage about to step up on that stage. And it's funny you bring up the amount of people, because I have to imagine that last day, you know, you're looking, there was thousands and thousands, like tens of thousands of people there. And for a brief moment backstage, I was like, oh man, there's a lot of people. And then I kind of just like let it leave my mind and said, all right, I'm going to go out there. And I had no idea what I was going to say because I was working the draft like the entire time. Like I was streaming, I was downtown like for 2 days straight. And so and then I had the fan event in the morning. So I really didn't get a chance to like take it all in. And then maybe I was going to lose the draft pick. And I had no idea what I was going to say. And so like I walked out there and like, all right, let's see what happens. And I mean, I've said this a few times now since, but if I never get to do anything again, like anything, I'm good. Like I don't know what could be a better feeling. I mean, just to be in a place in Green Bay where they have worked so incredibly hard to get this draft, a place that I was dreaming about going, being a kid from New York, and just like dreaming of going to Green Bay and going to Lambeau Field. And to be able to do that, man, it's a highlight of my life that like I'm never going to forget. So yeah, it was pretty great. It was a really good week.
Absolutely.
Congrats on that. That's awesome.
I appreciate it, man.
Yeah, just the video when they offered it to you. And I mean, you could tell how much that meant to you and everything coming full circle. And Can only imagine how great of a feeling that was.
Dude, it's like, I've loved this team since I was 6. And obviously it's a division rival for you guys. But, like 28 years, I've loved this team. And the majority of the time, like I couldn't even watch Packers games unless they were on primetime, because in New York, and this was before Sunday Ticket and all that great stuff, like I couldn't watch any of that stuff. I couldn't afford to go to Green Bay or go to Wisconsin. And so to be able to just actually be there and experience it, not just for the city, but to be able to like be on that stage. Yeah. I mean, there's just, I don't know what tops that.
Awesome.
Yeah, that was pretty special.
All right, sticking with the draft. So the Packers finally drafted a wide receiver in the first round, Matthew Golden, for the first time since 2002, which was Javon Walker. Were you excited to finally get a first-round wide receiver? Was that something that never really bothered you? I mean, obviously this one feels different because you're there downtown. You're watching it happen. But I mean, was the wide receiver in the first round thing, did that matter to you before? Or?
It's a great question. Yeah, because like I didn't even get to see it live because I was streaming downtown. Like Johnny, my editor, he was there, and so he got to experience the Packers fan. So he got to experience it live, like at the draft stage, which was really cool. It's honestly a narrative that I think got overplayed in the media like forever because the Packers have had plenty of really good wide receivers over the year, and they just came in the second round, right? Like Randall Cobb, you're talking about Devontae Adams, Jordy Nelson, and like Donald Driver didn't even get drafted, right? Like there's plenty of guys that have been more than fine. And I think it just kind of, when Rodgers was here, it picked up a lot of steam, but the Packers were also looking at Justin Jefferson back in the 2020, like they were looking to go and get him. Unfortunately, he fell to the purple incarnation of Satan. But I think ultimately, like, for me, I wasn't as invested of like, man, we need a wide receiver one to be in the first round because you can get them in the second round. I mean, Christian Watson, for example, the Packers were trying to trade up and get him in the first round, but they wound up getting him at the top of the day 2. So I didn't think it was that big of a deal. However, the fact that it was Mark Murphy, who was like the architect of getting the draft in Green Bay, going out there and got to say for the first time in 23 years, like, and just have that crowd reaction. I think it created such an amazing moment. And I think Matthew Golden is one heck of a player. But yeah, man, like that's a special thing. First time in Green Bay, and who knows if they're going to host it again. And to be able to break that streak, I know it's going to make a lot of fans happy that they finally put that to bed.
Yeah, Jordan Love doesn't need any more weapons, in my opinion, so I wasn't very happy.
Yeah.
But
less,
it's okay.
Actually. I prefer if he had less weapons.
Yeah. All right, man. We're going to switch a little gears here. We're going to go NFL schedules, obviously getting released this week. Some games have already been released, obviously. You know that. The NFC North, if you look at all 4 of us, we're in the top for the, toughest schedule that we're going to have. That's at least how the NFL measures it right now. What matchups are you most looking forward for the Packers this season?
Well, I mean, the Bears have to be up there. They weren't going to be, but, after what happened in January, it's just off-season champs again 3 times in a row. It's like, all right, we got to try to put that to bed. There's a few games that I have circled that I'm super duper excited about. The Bengals game should be super cool. The Steelers, whenever they play the Steelers, those are always like really great games. And if Aaron Rodgers is there, holy cow, man, like that's going to be insane. That'd either be played in Pittsburgh or in Ireland. That's been rumored a few times. And then honestly, just like kind of within the division, the Packers almost got swept by the entire division last year if it wasn't for a blocked field goal. So I think that is where the Packers didn't do as well, obviously, than previous seasons. And even though they had a better record last year within the division, it just wasn't great. So I think, those games against the Lions and the Vikings, I think those are, of course, going to be the most important ones. But outside of that, yeah, I'm looking at the AFC North is going to be a lot of fun just with the Bengals and that high-powered offense. And then the Steelers, it's always, 2 classic football teams going to go at it. So they always put on a show. I mean, hell, even the Eagles, man. I mean, you guys, I thought you were going to be the opener against the Eagles. I think that would have been a phenomenal game, but we got to watch the Cowboys. So, yeah, I think that the Eagles game too, because it's that bar, right? It's like, okay, that's the defending champs. How good are we, heading into this season?
Yeah, it's a matchup that we wanted to see as Lions fans. We wanted to see the Eagles last year. Just didn't happen. And I was on the fence whether I wanted to start out the gate. I think it's like one of those perfect mid-season to late season matchups where both teams are going, as long as we're not injured and, everything's healthy. That's where I look at that. But yeah,
I will say too, like you mentioned, like our division last year was insane, right? You had like 2 14-win teams. 3 out of the 4 teams are going to the playoffs. But it is, I don't like it, of course, for the Packers, but it is kind of incredible that none of us won a single game in the playoffs after all of that. because we were talking so much crap to each other. It was the Lions destroying the Vikings. It was that hyped up Sunday Night Football game and just crap it, destroyed them. And that was amazing. Then the Vikings lost and the Packers lost. And it was the fact that we all walked away with nothing after all of that. It was like, okay, cool. That's going to humble us real quick.
Yeah. And it certainly did.
Back down to earth for a minute.
Yeah, just a little bit. Until September.
Exactly, right. Then it's right back. Pick up right where we left off. All right. So just generally, do you like what the Packers have done this offseason?
Generally, yeah. I mean, in terms of the off, I actually just recorded like a 30-minute video about this today. I asked the question, like, did the Packers improve, right? Did they get better? And I think objectively, if you look at the offensive side of the ball, I don't know how they could have gotten worse. They lost Josh Myers, who was our starting center, but there's not too many Packers fans that are crying about that, right? Elton Jenkins can move to the center. We not only went out and got Aaron Banks and gave him a big old contract, but on top of that, we drafted Belton with our second overall pick, and he's a monster, and Jordan Morgan's coming back. So that offensive line should be really damn good. And our pass blocking was pretty good last year. Our run blocking wasn't so great. But in terms of the Packers offense, the only thing they weren't top 10 in was passing, right? So their run game was 5. And if I'm not mistaken, points per game was around 6, I believe. And so that was what needed to get better. So just in terms of protection, you're protecting your $55 million quarterback in Jordan Love. But on top of that, you're going and getting 2 dynamic weapons. One, of course, in Matthew Golden, but then also in Savion Williams. So I think that there's 2 things going on here with the offense. One, there's worried about our current wide receivers. Christian Watson's going to miss a good amount of time. He's not going to be back until November, December, just depending on how fast he's going to be able to heal. And he's also in a contract year. Romeo Doubs, also in a contract year, had 2 major concussions. There's a little bit of concern there. There's also rumors, who knows if he winds up going somewhere else. So to bring in 2 guys, I think is one with a ton of speed. Savion Williams is enormous, and he can play he's basically a larger Jaden Reed. And on top of that, speaking of Jaden Reed, both him and Dontavian Wicks, they had their struggles last year with drops, and their contracts are over after the 2026 season. So I think that there was a lot in limbo in terms of, okay, are these guys going to get major contracts? How long are they going to be staying? There's some injury concerns. So I think that offense has objectively gotten better. On top of that, you have Marshawn Lloyd, the running back that we drafted last year, who didn't play at all. He's coming back. So behind Josh Jacobs, who had a phenomenal year, I don't see how this offense takes any steps back unless there's like dramatic injury, right? Because I think they added enough personnel. The one spot where I'm a little concerned is the pass rush. We decided to address that in day 3, but we didn't do that in free agency. And then, of course, corner, because we have no idea what's going on with Jair Alexander.
Right.
So, yeah, those are like the 2 spots. I'm like, I can't say we got better. If Lucas Van Ness develops, cool, that'll be great. Or what if these guys like Sorrell or Oliver, if they're able to come in and they're able to make an impact immediately, cool. But that's where I'd be a little bit concerned, because the Packers have this tendency to draft like these freakishly athletic edge rushers, and they're like, all right, we just got to wait for them to develop. And if they don't develop, like Lucas Van Ness is taking a little bit longer, we're waiting. And unfortunately, sometimes the pass rush could suffer because of that.
Rashawn Gary also kind of took just a minute to get, full potential up there.
Because that's what you're doing in the draft, right? You're drafting for potential. And Rashawn Gary, like his college numbers, if we're just even looking at sacks, were not super duper impressive. Like he was an insane athlete. He was super fast off the edge. But if you push him to the outside, he, more often than not did not get after the quarterback, had some nice pursuit. But I was like, okay, when we drafted him, we'll see what happens. Lucas Van Ness. And then Rashawn Gary, built up to it. But that's also how the Packers roll. Like that's how they view rookies, as they are rookies. Like you could have Evan Williams last year, who came out in camp and was looking amazing. And I think he had 3 snaps week 1. So that's just like the Packers usually play it super duper slow when they're having these rookies come in and not just throwing them, into the fire.
All right, Tom, I know that we're running up on time here. We got one last question before we let you go.
Yeah.
So
I got like 8 minutes, so you're good.
But you got 8 minutes? Okay, then we have like 80.
I got to do a hard out, so you're good until then.
No, okay. I just wanted to. I don't want to.
No, I appreciate you.
So
you're good.
All right, then let's add this question in. Then talking about the Packers, we're always, they're always conservative with free agency. They have been for the longest time. How is that as a Packers fan? Is that frustrating? Is that something that you've come to just, hey, that's normal? Do you agree with it? What's your feeling on that?
Yeah, it's a great question. And I feel like over the years it's changed, right? So for the longest time with Ted Thompson, the Packers barely did anything. There's the famous clip with Mike McCarthy where the reporters were asking him, because I think it was like around March, they were like, like free agency's coming up, and he's like, it is? And he was like, because they had no idea. So I think in terms of the being conservative, they bring in guys like Reggie White, like that's crazy, like that's pretty good, right? I think that one worked out. Or they bring in like Julius Peppers, like they did back in 14. And that's usually when they would say, okay, we're going to bring in like these one players every now and then that we think can make a huge difference. So for a while, yeah, it was pretty frustrating as a fan. And then Goody comes along, and in 2018, I remember this because I was teaching and I was in first period when this happened. And they signed Zadarius Smith, Preston Smith, Adrian Amos, and also Billy Turner. And I was like, whoa, like this is insane. They were giving out major contracts to some of these guys too. And so with Goody, I think he's been a little bit more aggressive in free agency. Obviously, like the one that we just passed free agency, they weren't as aggressive. It was kind of just like little pieces here and there. The big contract went to Aaron Banks. But last year, and this is the thing that kind of goes against the Packers don't do much, like they brought in two major free agents in Josh Jacobs and also Xavier McKinney. And when they got Xavier McKinney, like he was I hope that the Packers go after him, but I had a feeling they weren't, because like he was like premium free agent, right? Like he was going to cost a lot of money. But shout out to Goody. He went out and he did it. So I feel like both of those free agents really helped last year's team. I mean, the turnover differential alone, just with Xavier McKinney, was outrageous. Him and Kirby Joseph are going back to back.
Right.
But in terms of just how being conservative, it's fine when it works out. But in terms of like patience, Packers fans tend to lose some patience, especially like the years when we had Aaron Rodgers, and it's like, okay, why aren't we going to get this guy? How come we're not going to get this guy and making this team better? So the one example I'll always remember, oh my God, I forget his first name. He was a safety. His last name was Bird. It was like BYRD. He wound up getting signed by the Saints. And I remember I was working at a grant writing company, and I was so pissed. I was like, oh man, we've needed safety forever. Like this is a dynamic playmaker. And he didn't do diddly squat with the Saints, right? Because sometimes like you can sign all these free agents, like some of these teams do when they have a lot of cap space, and it doesn't mean nothing, right? Like it doesn't, they're just, overpriced and they don't wind up working out. So I'd rather be on the conservative side and then every now and then be like, okay, let's dip our toe in the water and let's go get like a premium guy. But I feel like at this point, we're kind of just used to it. But when you have an aggressive year like last year and then not so much this year, some fans are going to have an issue.
Yeah, I think the Lions fans we're in a new era where we're going to have to resign all these rookies. We're drafting. And so there's a considerable amount of the fan base was upset that we didn't make a bigger splash in free agency. You see the amount of cap space and they get upset, and you're like, but we got to have that money to pay Jahmyr Gibbs in a year, Aiden Hutchinson, all those guys. And so you could get, the Lions did. They would constantly overpay for free agents when we were not good. And so fans always, I think we're in that mind, Lions fans at least, are in that mindset of who's the next big guy? We have to get him. And we're not in that position as a roster anymore. We don't necessarily need that. I mean, DJ Reed was a surprise, but we got him on a reasonable contract, but he was a major get for us.
Yeah, right.
I wanted DJ Reed. Like, I hated that so much. But yeah, and I mean, and you basically upgraded at CB. I don't think you're going to be crying that you got DJ Reed. I think he's going to be pretty darn good. But it's also re-signing your own guys is never sexy, but like that's a huge part of free agency, right? If you don't have to go out and get free agency because you drafted and developed well, great, you're ahead of the curve. And you look at teams like the Bears, right, or even the Vikings, who are pretty heavy spenders in free agency this year, and then you're sitting here as like the Lions and the Packers, and you're like, why aren't we doing anything? But doing something doesn't necessarily equate to success, right? You want to be able to draft and develop and be able to get those guys on rookie deals and really only just patching the holes with free agency. And I know, Lions fans definitely wanted an edge rusher, and they were like, okay, Williams is a little bit of a run stuffer. Trey Hendrickson is out there, still out there, but sometimes it's your pass rusher is going to be better just because Hutchinson's back. So
yeah, absolutely.
100%.
Sometimes no moves is the move.
Well, and also, both of our rosters have $50+ million quarterbacks, whereas the Bears and the Vikings don't. So that at some point they're going to have to pay those guys, and then they're not going to be able to have money to do those type of things. So that you have to look at that. Like you look at all the teams that spent in the NFL, the Patriots, all these teams had rookie quarterbacks. I mean, that's the common denominator. They got that money to spend.
Commanders, same exact thing, right? With Jane Daniels, and they're going out and they're making big acquisitions as well. So,
yeah, 100%. All right, we got time for one more, Jacob. I'll let you ask it, and then.
All right. So for us, obviously, this is amazing getting a chance to interview you. We just want to know, is there a person that you would like to meet or interview?
Ooh. Any just like any NFL
Yeah.
related.
It doesn't even have to be NFL. It could be anybody that, I mean, for us, it's just that we're amazed to have you on the show. We want to know who'd give you that feeling for your show.
Ooh. So I actually got a chance to meet last year, and I met him again this year. Chris Berman actually was like a huge influence because, man, like I'm a 90s kid. So like I used to just watch SportsCenter every single, especially when I couldn't watch the Packers. And Chris Berman was like a huge introduction to football for me. So to be able just to meet him, and he was like, wait a minute, you're the guy who went to 30 stadiums. So I was like, oh, this is amazing. So like that was a pretty surreal moment. It's actually not even directed at a person, but I would love to interview a guy. Might have to wait a little bit on Trevor Lawrence, but like a guy like Trevor Lawrence or Joe Burrow or even like a Josh Allen, the guys who become like these franchise quarterbacks that save struggling franchises, especially like the Joe Burrows or the Trevor Lawrences of the world. Because I'm just like super curious of like what that mindset looks like, because it's not just like going out and performing, but to have like that weight of those expectations from an entire city, an entire fan base, that it's like, hey, you are the guy who's like bringing us from irrelevancy to, you know, potential Super Bowls or the playoffs or what have you. I just think like those are really fascinating people because it's such a unique position to be like those franchise players. So yeah, I'd say anyone's in those kind of positions, it's always just fun to talk to them.
I did not expect to go that way. I was expecting some Packer grade or something like that, but yeah, no, that's great.
It's awesome. Like I've had a chance to talk to a few Packers folks over the years, which has been really, really cool. But like that, I kind of look at as if it happens, it happens. But I mean, I like talking to people, you know. And so like once you kind of just get to that level of like, oh, like people are people, and you're just an insane athlete, you know, like let's talk about that and what that process looks like. And it's even like going to the draft or the combine. And these kids are like 2 years older than who I was teaching in high school, right? And just be like, hey, so you're 20 years old and are about to get millions of dollars and achieve a lifelong dream. How does that feel? Mm-hmm. That's those are the kind of stories that I'm just really interested in.
Right.
Well, I mean, your ability to talk to people is your greatest asset. So, I mean, it seems like that'd be just natural just to have that conversation. I mean, obviously we were nervous, you know, coming up with these questions, going to talk to you, but you made it so easy to talk to.
People are people. That's it. You hang around enough people. Like it doesn't matter what they do. As long as you can like connect with people, people are people. That's like, I'm just a dude in a basement, you know.
Just so all the listeners out there just know, before we got on the show, Tom had all these rough guidelines about what we were supposed to ask him. And he was just like, wow, it was eye-opening.
The dating life. There was 18 questions, guys. It was a little bit over the top.
It was, you know, like boxers of briefs. He said, that's off the table. We can't ask that,
it's boxer briefs, guys. Come on now. Unbelievable.
All right.
But I appreciate you guys having me on.
Hey, thank you.
And appreciate you having Tom on. Tom, is there anything that you're cooking that you want to tell about people before we sign off here?
I got to move halfway across the country. So this offseason, I'm not doing something insane. We raised $1 million in a week. I slept on the floor. I've done that. That was my summer thing a few weeks ago. So yeah, be good and kind to each other. We need all that we can get, and that's it.
Yeah, no, great. Nope, I love it. All right.
Appreciate y'all.
Thank you, Tom.
Thank you, Tom, for joining.
Of course. Appreciate you guys.
Tom.
Thanks, Tom.
You have a great night. Thanks, guys.
Yep.
That was incredible.
Wow. That really just happened. Yeah. All right. If you're joining live, you could obviously catch that full interview on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your podcast. Hit the like, subscribe. We'd appreciate it. First of all, we should give a shout out to JJ. Jacob's son is the one that instigated all this.
Right.
He follows Tom, caught him up in a chat. They got to talking, and it led to this. That's how this happened. So it was all JJ. So shout outs to JJ. That was amazing.
Right. He really pulled through. I know he was happy about it. You know, he watches all the content. Tom goes live several times. He does Friday night Q&A. Like, you know, obviously we just saw he's such an easy person to talk to listen to. Very funny, very down to earth. And, you know, JJ just put a couple comments out there. Tom responded, and here we are.
Yeah.
Unbelievable opportunity, man. That was awesome.
So my question is, okay, so Jeremy Reisman was episode 5. We just had Eric Schlitt on not too long ago. We've had other amazing guests in between those guys. Were you more nervous for Tom or Eric or Jeremy or anybody else that we've, talked
See,
to?
for my thing, we interviewed Jeremy so early on, I didn't even really understand because I didn't listen to the podcast like you did before. So I did not know the level of Jeremy's, his intelligence and how in-depth as a beat writer and everything. I didn't know that much about him before we interviewed him. So therefore, I didn't have a chance to get nervous just because it wasn't like that. I was a little bit nervous about Eric because obviously we had been into it a little bit longer and I knew how smart he was and how in-depth and everything. I was most nervous for the Tom interview. I still expect him to ghost us. Maybe, just wasn't going to come out. Sometimes people are not exactly who you see when they're online making content. But that dude is 100% genuine. I don't know if you saw the video, where they offered him the chance to announce the draft pick and everything. You could see it on his face.
I saw him do the draft pick, but I did not see that video you referenced.
No, just 100% genuine. And honestly, I just feel like he fits, if he was a Lions fan, maybe, but he fits right in with me and you. I mean, just that same kind of, that's how me or you would react if they offered us a chance to announce the Lions draft pick. We're just blown away, just, incredibly grateful. And, he's just an awesome person. So that was great.
So I was not nervous interviewing him. I was nervous of him showing up, just like getting there. Once we got to talking, it was easy.
Yeah.
And I felt like I can go back to Jeremy. Jeremy, I was really nervous. I mean, that was episode 5 for us. And I felt like, there's so much, right? We wanted our show to be successful at that point. And like, we were just like, we weren't ever, we're never going to make money with this thing or, that's not our goal. Right.
Right.
So like, even with Tom being on there, all it does is increase exposure. And we got to interview Tom freaking Grossi. Okay. That this is cool. And then same thing I felt when I got to interview Eric and interview Morgan, Miko. These are all guys that I really respect their football minds and just enjoy talking football with. And so, yeah, it was. And plus, the year between Jeremy and Tom got me, Tom said it in his show, we're all just people, right? And the more you talk to these guys, you realize that, okay, they like sports. We have that in common. Let's just rip it up. And the fact that we've gotten to this point that we were talking to Tom Grossi,
right?
Great for reaching out. Jacob, you did an awesome job. I've gotten every interview that we've done through this podcast, I think, except for you've gotten Tom Grossi.
Well, let's add everybody's subscriber count and we'll see how many you got and we'll see how many I got.
You win by a landslide. Although Jeremy's been on twice and Eric's been on. So can I count Jeremy twice?
Arif Hassan's got a lot of followers too. So Hassan,
yes, and that's another one.
You can't. Bo Brack though. I emailed Bo Brack first just because he got back to you.
He did. I don't know. Maybe my email demeanor was a little nicer. So
maybe it was. I got to work on that.
Yeah.
Be nicer in my emails. Dang.
All right. So let's move on. Rookie minicamp was this week for the Lions. Did you catch any of the interviews with the players? Did you see any of the tape? What did you think?
I did not see any highlights of them working out or anything like that. I didn't know if those were out there, but a couple things. I know the rookie minicamp, we signed a couple players from there, but the one thing I want to mention to start off here is Dominic Lovett. So, we talked about that and he was somebody that was like, I'm not sure about this guy. And I said this too. I said, I'm not sure about him on paper. Said this doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. Looking at his stats, looking what he has to offer, I'm just not sure where he fits in. And I feel like he's a really big long shot, to make the roster. And while I will say that it's still a long shot for him to make the roster, he has just as good of a chance as any of these other undrafted receivers and stuff like that. He was a 7th rounder. But, I saw the press conference and I can see why they got him. I like his personality. He was funny. He wants to do everything he can to make the team, to help the team win. He shouted out Rakestraw. He had great things to say about his teammates at Georgia. And, he talked about the other undrafted receiver, Jackson Meeks, said the Lions got a steal with Jackson Meeks. This is definitely somebody that I'm rooting for now. Very likable player. Did you see that? What kind of vibe did you get from that now?
Yeah, I got Jamal Williams vibes all up and down that.
Yes, right.
Interview. It was like just laid back and just he's
just flipping a
talking
water
about,
bottle. He's just talking.
Yeah. I was like, get that water bottle away from the microphone. He's gonna have to get learn about that. But watching watching every one of those interviews, you see what type of player the Lions gravitate to. They are all so natural, just talking. And Tate was awesome. Hassanin was great.
Right.
His bit about what was your favorite thing
Right.
about getting up to the big food,
The
food.
lobster mac and cheese.
Exactly. It's another reminder, like Tom said, these are 20-year-old kids, and that, they've just, it's like, they've been eating regular mac and cheese, and all of a sudden now, we're getting the lobster mac and cheese. This is great. But I like that. Some of the video that came out, Tesla made some great catches. I
actually did see one, like a fadeaway catch that he had. I didn't see a whole lot.
He had a fadeaway catch, and then he also had one where he really worked the corner to the sideline, and both those catches that they showed that I saw in the highlights was away from his body with his hands. He's got strong hands, and that's what you want. That's what I want to see with the receiver. Tom was just talking about his receivers with drops last year with the Packers. We're not going to see that with the Lions. Lions, get wide receivers that don't drop the ball.
Right. Very important aspect of the game.
Yeah. And then, Tyleek, I don't know if you read this. He wasn't out there. He's still, they're playing it slow with was it a hamstring injury? I'm not sure where. It's a lower body injury. I don't think it's anything major, but he was working on the sideline.
I think he said the Lions were the ones keeping it,
Yeah.
No sense in pushing anything right now.
One of the clickbait articles I saw was like, Tyleek Williams already unhappy with one of the Lions' decisions. And it's like, no.
Of course, man. That's how they get.
Yeah, I know. I'm just like, I'm not clicking on that. You don't got me. I know what the real answer is because I watched the press conference.
Exactly. It's funny now you don't fall for it.
Yeah.
Or it's even funnier when we already know the stories and then you can see the clickbait and then we can put two and two together like, okay, I see how they came to that.
I know. And then like when we do stuff, like I'm making YouTube titles or something like that, I'm like, how do I, because that'll get clicks, but do you want to be like that? Do you want to be that guy that, has it? And it's hard not to be. It truly is, because you will get a lot less attention if you put exactly what, you're feeling in your article.
Right. I mean, you want an attention grabber, but you don't want, that's bordering on like false information just because they're trying to get, and that's, somebody clicks the article. As soon as they see it, they unclick. They're not reading. They're not, pulling anything.
Or if you go into Reddit, some people are just already gaining conclusions just based on those headlines. They didn't even click on the article. They see they see the headline, and then they were like, oh, Tyleek Williams already unhappy camper. No, it's not true.
Do your research.
Exactly.
Do you want to talk about the guys we signed? Do you have those in front of you? The rookie minicamp?
I don't have them up. Do you got them up?
I got them up. Yeah.
All right,
so
go ahead.
We signed 3. We had the rookie minicamp. We had some tryout players on there. We did sign 3 of them. Mm-hmm. So tight end Luke Deal, he's an undrafted free agent from Auburn. He showed enough in the rookie minicamp that he actually was signed. And then we cut Caden Prescorn. He was the one from Ole Miss. He's from Michigan. So Caden got cut. Luke Deal took his spot. We also signed a wide receiver, Malik Taylor. So he's from Flint, Michigan. He played at Ferris State. He actually is a 28-game veteran. He played with the Packers and the Jets. So we've got another receiver on the roster now. And then a defensive lineman, Raekwon Williams. So I don't know if you remember, he actually went to Michigan State. And he's played in 7 games with the Eagles. So a couple vets, 1 undrafted free agent. But our roster right now sits at 90 players. Ahmed Hassanin actually is qualifying for the roster exemption from the International Pathway Program. So he doesn't count against that 90. But the roster's full right now.
Yep. Yeah, we had 2 roster spots empty, and then so we only had to drop 1 player, and then we picked up 3. It's gonna we're gonna see changes from now until obviously till the cut down day that things will happen. People will get released. We'll sign people. People will get injured. All those type of things will happen. But I'm liking the way the roster sits right now, man. I really feel good about it.
Right.
All right. NFL schedule. It's coming up. A few of the games got released. We did not get week 1. We talked about it with Tom. Were you disappointed? Did you want week 1? Was that something that you really wanted?
You mean the opening game or just like the prime
week
time
1
things
with
like
the Eagles. Yeah.
Right. I do like the opening, the primetime thing. Like when we played the Chiefs in the opening game, that was really cool. I'm okay with it though. I told you like maybe it'll be the Sunday night primetime game. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm okay with that.
Right. We also
I
don't
didn't
know.
think we were going to get it. I didn't think we were going to get it because we just had it 2 years ago. Although I liked the matchup and everything, I didn't think that we get it. I didn't think they'd go with division game though. Cowboys,
Yeah, right.
they don't need the Cowboy. The Cowboys are a draw. That's a division game. That's going to be a draw no matter where it is in the season. I was surprised they went with that.
Yeah,
So
I don't understand, but I mean, I understand, I get it, but it's still just kind of weird.
Yeah, no. But the thing that, it kind of sucks about when you get that week 1, let's just say that we lost. That would be a long week 1 until week 2,
Right.
if we had lost on that opening game. I mean, even if we won, you still got to wait. And it seems like you waited so long for the season start. It starts, and then now you got like almost like a bye week. It feels like because you got 10 days until the next game.
True.
So we'll see. I mean, I don't know. I'm wondering if we're going to start on the road because we have 9 road games this year. But before we talk all that, let's just go through our opponents for home and away, and then we can go through all that. So home, we're going to obviously have our division games: Packers, Vikings, Bears. We got Cowboys, Browns, Bucks, Giants, and Steelers. The away is when it gets super interesting because this is murder's
That's most
row
of the difficult games that we have end up being away.
It is very tough. So you got Packers, Vikings, Bears. Obviously, those are going to be tough divisional games. But then you add the Eagles, the Commanders, the Bengals, the Chiefs, the Rams, and the Ravens, all playoff teams or playoff hopeful teams coming into this year. If we get through that schedule and come out, with a really good record, we deserve, that's going to make us playoff ready.
I don't know if we can go undefeated on the road back-to-back years.
Oh, man. If we did, like with this schedule, and you never know. I mean, like some of these teams could have an injury at the, right time for us, wrong time for them. There could be just, some, teams may not be what you thought they were going to be. But looking at it on paper, this looks really daunting.
Yeah, for sure.
So Lions are tied for second for the hardest schedule in the league. They're actually tied with the Bears at the last one I looked up. So with our opponents last year had a 571 winning percentage. The Packers and the Vikings are tied for fifth. The last one that I looked at. So, part of it is that our division's really tough, and you have like both. Based on last year's records, you had the Vikings and the Lions with top records in the league. So like that's going to up, how hard your schedule is. And then, obviously the Packers made the playoffs too. The Bears record was not all that great, but, obviously they got Ben Johnson and, they've upgraded their team in free agency. So they're looking to be a little more formidable this year, at least on paper. It's, not only do we have a tough schedule, our division has a tough schedule. So,
which may help us, right?
Which may help us, right? Exactly. So I don't expect 14-2 teams to be facing off in week 17 with this schedule. And if that happens again, that'd be crazy. So question, out of all this, who do you think we start the year with? You said maybe Sunday Night Football. So who do you think we start with the year with?
With everything going on with the NFC North, I don't know that they would schedule one of those week 1, even though it has been several years since they've done that. So we may be due for, an opening NFC North game. But, that also destroys potentially some huge matchups later in the season. I think, Commanders, Ravens, one of those teams. I don't know if either of those have been Chiefs, Chargers, Cowboys, Eagles. Those are the only ones that have been announced so far. I think one of those, if you're talking Sunday primetime, Commanders rematch right away, that would be kind of cool.
Yeah, that'd be kind of like last year where we faced our playoff. We faced the Rams week 1 and Bucks week 2.
Right.
We'd be facing that. I don't know if I really want to relive Commanders right away. That'd be like us facing the 49ers in that opening game last year.
Right. Which is funny how that worked out because, we had both circled that 49ers game. That's going to be a huge late season matchup. And then, I mean, obviously it wasn't it wasn't a blowout. I mean, it was a close game, but there was way less riding on it than we thought at the beginning of the season because that's just how it went.
Yep. I know that a lot of people are predicting this, but the Bears, the storyline there with Bears week 1,
Right.
it could be Monday Night Football, Sunday Night Football, something in there. I could see that definitely has some teeth to it.
Oh, 100%. Which would be huge.
It would be going to division, obviously.
But now you would think if they did that, would they do the Detroit home? Because then we'd be leading off of the home game, or what do you?
Since we have 9 road games, I'm hoping that we lead off. I'd rather lead off road.
Right.
Because if we lead off with a home game, we're going to have a stretch of like 3 road games in a row. And with this schedule on the road, I don't want that. I'd rather have my road games scattered. I know we'll have a couple back to back, but I want to avoid 3 road games in a row. I think that would be really tough to overcome.
Right.
No matter who's on this list. I mean, who do you think's our easiest opponent on the road?
The easiest opponent on the road? I think time will tell as the season goes on. Because I think all of these guys are right on, these are all juggernauts right now.
I know. Yeah.
I really don't even, maybe the Chiefs, maybe the Commanders. I mean, and that's crazy to say, but just the way.
Yeah. I think the Bengals, just because, they have their offense is a juggernaut, but their defense isn't. So we'll see how
shootout maybe
breaks down. Yeah. I'd want to say the Bears would probably be on that list.
I wasn't really looking at the North. Right. Yeah. I wasn't looking at the division.
Right. So that puts but if we're, definitely Packers or Vikings are going to be tough this year, especially on the road. The Bears, we'll see how they do. It's a first-year head coach. I know that, Ben Johnson's acclaimed and everything, but he has not proved anything as a head coach. It is the Bears. And frankly, I'd rather face them early than late, than 2 later games. Like we faced the Bears late last year, like Thanksgiving, I think was our first game. And then we faced them, a couple weeks after. I'd rather face the Bears early before Ben Johnson starts to, they're going to be installing a new offense. I'd rather get them early so that, before they, figure things out. And I'd rather get them early on the road. Like I would mind a week 1 game on the road with the Bears. Just,
I don't know. They started off the season really strong last year,
but that was also because they were the teams that they were playing. And you think week 1 last year, the Titans, Will Levis just handed the Bears that game.
Right.
Yeah, just like, hey, here's a football. Would you like this? Yeah, run that other way for.
That was the water boy. Just toss it to him and let him run.
Yeah, exactly. That was really terrible. So,
but they won early on, and then they had that Hail Mary thing against the Commanders where they lost that game. Then they had a couple blowouts, but then they kind of, most of their losses for the rest of the year were all close games. It was just like for one reason or another, they just weren't getting it done. They had a timeout thing with us, last second loss to Green Bay and to Minnesota, and
yeah, well,
better coaching and everything there. Maybe
Eberflus, no, they canned him, but Brad Johnson hasn't had to make those decisions either. We don't know what he's going to do. He's a smart football mind, but we've seen. All these coaches were smart football minds, right? They were offensive geniuses, defensive geniuses, and then somehow they get to head coach and you find out, oh, maybe that's not the position for them. I'm not saying that Ben Johnson's going to be in that spot, but I personally think Aaron Glenn is way more ready to be a head coach than Ben Johnson is for head coaching. So, we'll see. Is there any of these teams or games in particular that you're looking forward to?
I'm looking forward to the whole season
home
right
or
now.
away. Yeah.
Once the schedule gets released, we can see when these things come up, which ones are in prime time, which ones are early and late and everything. Then I'll probably be able to pinpoint a couple more. But right now, when you're just looking at opponents, like, I want all of them. These are some great football games.
Yeah, I'm not sure when all these are going to fall. Wednesday's going to be great for me because I told my wife, I'm like, we finally get to see what our fall schedule as a family will look like with our season tickets,
right.
Like which weekends I need to have. And, I guess the first year that we had them, we weren't in like a ton of primetime games. And then last year it was all over the place as far as like 4 o'clock games, 1 o'clock games, Sunday night football, Monday night football. And with a family, it's really hard to do that Sunday night football, Monday night football. And certainly the Thursday football is really, really tough.
Right.
All right. You got any guesses for the Thanksgiving Day game before it gets released on Wednesday?
I go back and forth on the Thanksgiving thing because I feel like they might try to do the NFC North matchup thing again.
You think so?
But if they don't, I think Browns-Lions is a good Thanksgiving game.
I think Steelers. I think they're going to go back to the coin flip game. Do you remember this game where Jerome Bettis said tails or heads? I don't whatever he said. And then, do you know what game I'm talking about?
I feel like I've seen this before, but I can't remember like exactly where he said something and the ref said he said
heads. He said heads tails is what he said, and so the ref or the umpire said what he said first was heads, and then it comes tails. Lions get it in overtime, end up winning the game. And, that was broken down so many times. Like on radio, you could hear
the Lions won that game?
The Lions won. It was in the Lions'
favor. So that
favor.
one went our way. Okay.
It did go our way. So one of those rare instances where something weird went the Lions' way. But yeah, it was a Thanksgiving Day game. And yeah, Jerome Bettis went out there, said head tails. And so now you notice that they've changed the rules on how you do it. They make you declare it ahead of time, and then they repeat it to you before you flip it. And that's all because of that game. It's stupid.
I thought you were going to say it was like the, was it Morning Wig? That was like they won the halftime, or they won the overtime coin toss. They're like, we're going to kick.
Yeah, we took the wind. That was in Chicago. Yep, we did that.
What year you think that was?
Oh, man, early 2000s, Marty Morningweg. I mean, he was talk about an offensive genius, right, that turned head coach that was way over his head. I'm going to guess 0102.
Google
That's
machine.
What I'm gonna guess. You're looking it up.
2002. Boom. You were right on.
Yeah, that's about, I'm just trying to go back to emotionally how hurt I was.
Yeah.
But they were playing outside, and that was a crazy win game. I mean, I'm not saying that I would have taken the
17 mile per hour win.
Yeah, and it's Chicago, but we have Jason Hansen at that time. He's going to make it.
Well, I mean, isn't the idea that you hope that you drive down and score? You don't have to worry about that.
Yeah, I know. Well,
that was also back when you could just get close and kick a field goal.
Field goal. It was first team that scored, so it didn't matter field goal, touchdown, or whatever. At that time, it was the first team that scored, so that makes it even more like great. Egregious because all you have to do is get down and get a score. So, anything else you want to hit up on the schedule? It's coming out Wednesday. Do you like that they release slow? They're trickling out these, slowly releasing these things, or do you like where they just release it all on Wednesday, like at one time?
I would be okay if they were like, okay, this is the slate of Sunday night games. And then maybe the next day you're like, these are the Monday night games. And then, these are the Thursday night. And then these are, the rest of the games. Maybe if they did it like that. Right now, it seems like there's no rhyme or reason. It's just all of a sudden like, hey, this team's playing here. This team's playing here. And I've seen several leaks on Twitter, which ended up being true so far. So it's like, okay, this stuff's all out there. Why are they making such an event about it?
Yeah, there's going to be too many of these things, and then all of a sudden, it's going to be just a mess. They're giving all these streaming services like Amazon, Netflix, like a way to advertise these games,
right?
More clicks, I guess. But I kind of like just all releasing all at once. Maybe just have like having the opening game, really, This is the opener. Have that. Maybe the international games do that, and then everybody else. I kind of equate it to like Christmas morning. Do I want to open up, scatter my gifts, or do I want to just open up in one giant day of opening gifts? And I'd rather do that rather than spread it out.
Saturday, December 20th, Packers at Bears, Eagles at Commanders. Just because those are Saturday games, I mean, is that...
Yeah, they did that. And then there's also the Black Friday game is, I think, the Eagles and the Bears.
Yeah, Bears
so the Bears
Eagles.
have already had a couple games announced. With the Bears getting games announced and they're on the league's expecting things from them, right? And they haven't done crap.
This may be Jets, Aaron Rodgers. We got to watch the Jets in primetime all year long as they're just garbage.
Yeah. So one thing I am thankful for is that Aaron Rodgers has not signed with anybody and maybe they'll just assuming the Steelers. Maybe they're just assuming the Steelers and they'll give Steelers get a lot of primetime games anyways, just because they're a huge draw. But, if Aaron Rodgers was there, then they would get even more. Maybe they're just going to assume he's going to sign there. But then, maybe he doesn't. Maybe now with Derek Carr goes down, the Saints take a chance on him because the Saints quarterback room is looking pretty bad.
You got to wonder, did they not know? I mean, they've been in touch with him. They've been in contact with him. Did they not know he was leaning this way? I mean, they drafted the quarterback in round 2, but then they didn't get any more insurance. Kirk Cousins is
you
out
talking
there.
about Derek Carr?
Yeah,
You're talking
and the
about Derek
Saints,
Carr?
for that situation. How do they not?
They may have known that. I mean, I don't know, but what if Sanders maybe they would have drafted him earlier? Did what the Browns did if they know Derek Carr was gonna. Because Spencer Rattler does not look very good. Like, he doesn't even look like he belonged on a NFL roster, in my opinion. Last year. He looked bad. All right, couple things before we head out of here. The Brad Holmes speech. If I know you haven't listened to it, Jacob, listen to it. If you haven't heard it, he did a commencement speech at his alma mater. Look it up. I think Bride of Detroit has it listed, or you can just search it up. Very inspiring. You can see why Brad Holmes fits in Detroit very well is because of this speech. He relates things to a poem called Your Middle School Mind Needs to Go Away, Jacob. It's called Your Heart. So it's like choosing between two things. I won't go through the whole thing. You can listen to the speech, but it says, marriage is hard and divorce is hard. And so basically the gist of it is any path you choose is going to have some hardships. Choose the path that that is right for you, and everything's going to be hard. Don't shy away from that. Don't think that's going to be hard, because whatever you do the opposite, it's going to be hard in a different way. So I highly recommend you reading that. And then Aaron Glenn, I don't know if you caught this or not, Jacob, because you worked today. There was like an interview released with him today, and he talked about Dan Campbell, and now he owes a lot to Dan Campbell. But also in there, he talked about how he met every day at 7:30 a.m. with JMO. Every day, Aaron Glenn, and they would sit in the office and talk at 7:30 in the morning. And I thought that was really neat. He's a defensive coordinator talking with JMO, and I just thought that was interesting.
Right? No, that's cool.
So I mean, it just and then you're like, how hard would that be? That'd be weird, talking with a guy every day for like 2 years at 7:30. Not every, obviously,
right.
But like for a majority of time, and then now he's gone. So you're gonna have to have a, where are you gonna replace that with? Because I'm sure Aaron Glenn was just giving him guidance, and they were just talking and chopping it up, and that maybe account for some of JMO's maturity. His increased maturity along the way, just having that.
Having a coach and a mentor that's been in the league and been in that position before, right?
Right. Yeah. And so I just thought it was interesting. I just speaks to like how Aaron Glenn had the ear of the team, not just on the defensive side of the ball, but on the offensive side of the ball. And I really feel like we're gonna miss that part. But Kelvin Shepard is awesome, and I think he's gonna command the same amount of respect. But the more, and I think I've said this before, losing Aaron Glenn, I know Ben Johnson gets the clicks, and he stayed in the division, so there's that angle to it. But I think Aaron Glenn's effect on this team is going to be missed more than Ben Johnson. That's at least my opinion.
You may be right. I mean, hard to replace.
Yes, exactly. So, all right, Jacob. This has been an amazing episode. We got to talk with Tom frickin' Grossi.
Unbelievable, man.
It really happened, and I'm so happy that we got to do that. Just, I think for us with the show, us being able to have access and talk to people like that, that's something that, is what we really wanted. That was our goal for this show, along with us just being able to talk football about our favorite team and, talk about different things that interest throughout the league. But for us to be able to talk, with guys like Jeremy and Eric and Morgan, Miko, and all the guys that we met, the Command This guys and the Bucketeers podcast, meeting
Think about all the teams, all
guys.
the people. Like, we've met a lot of people already.
Right. I know. And we've met 2 Packers guys that I like. Dusty is cool. And
Right.
Tom,
That's weird.
Yeah, it is weird. There's only 2 cool Packers guys, I'm convinced.
Maybe we should quit putting Packers people on here. Just stick to them, and let's not get too friendly.
Yeah, let's not do it. And Arif, I like Arif too. He's a cool guy to talk to, even though he's a Vikings fan. So we've got to meet a lot of people. So, and I don't take any of that for granted. I appreciate all the legwork that you did, getting Tom, on the show and all that stuff. That's awesome. And again, thanks to JJ for really getting it going.
Right.
So, all right, man. Anything else for you want to talk about before we head out of here?
No, man, I'm good. Looking forward to the schedule release and being able to dissect that a little bit next week on our 1 year anniversary episode.
I know. It's crazy. 1 year, dude.
1 year.
I know. Crazy. Yeah. It's flown by, but it also seems like we've been doing it for a long time too.
Right.
Just because you're doing it weekly, and then during the season we're doing it twice weekly, so it grows on you really, really fast. And I've never looked at football in depthly as much as I do for the show, to get ready for the show and find interesting things. And I'm still learning how to do that properly and the way that we need to do it for the show. But it's a fun way to look at football.
Hey, and it was funny if you caught what Tom had said, like when he first started and everything, that he was just interviewing, teams about the matchup coming up and everything. It's like, okay, well, we're following that path right now.
Yeah, exactly. I know.
Got to start somewhere.
We're way. I mean, we're two people. Tom's one person. We're like twice as funny as him. Nice. So yeah, you'll see our videos copying him. I mean, there's quite a few people that try to do what Tom does, as far as like talking to other teams, and there are some funny people that are doing it, but just no one does it quite to his extent.
Right. No, he's great. I wanted to ask him about the 40-yard dash. I forgot. I didn't get to sneak that one in there.
Yeah, I think that was my question, but we were also like, it's like
it was like a continuation about his draft experience, and it was like, we don't need to push anymore.
Yeah, I know. Well,
how fast do you think you could run the 40, Jason? Are you fast?
How fast? I've ran it. I'm just over 6 the last time I ran it.
Just over 6.
Yeah, just over 6 seconds.
You made it the whole way without falling?
I did. I was huffing and puffing at the end. No, I ran it. I would do it because they had the time 40-yard dash. They didn't do it last season, I don't think, but previous seasons they'll have it out in the Brush Street corridor there. They'll do it before the game, Lions games. They'd have it there.
Well, they always have it up.
Time. Yeah, and so we would do it. Our first year that we're going up there, the boys were like mesmerized by it, so we did it a bunch of times. And of course, I would do it with one of the boys, and then the other one would want me to go. So then I'm going back and doing it. And, like 3 or 4 times of 40-yard dashes, I was pretty winded after that. But I beat the boys, but I think Bradley, my youngest, would beat me now. He has gotten much faster.
Faster than Preston?
Preston, I don't think Preston is like his dad. He's not the most coordinated, athlete, very try hard, loves the sport, will do anything to play sports, but he's, he is just not as gifted athletically as, just like his dad, unfortunately. Whereas Bradley, I don't know where his genes came from. He was switched at birth or something, because he's
Sarah run a 4.
Yeah. No, Sarah has 2 children, so now she'll, biologically things happen when she's run. So no, she'll laugh too much.
That is a great way to put it.
Yeah, so Sarah will laugh, and when Sarah laughs, she loses all bodily control. Like she cannot like do anything coordinated when she's laughing. And Preston is the same way. We'll play pickle, and I'll get him laughing, and then all of a sudden he can't catch or throw the ball, and it
makes for a good time.
It does. And so when I'm playing basketball or something and they're beating me, I know how to beat Preston. I just started getting him laughing, and then he'll turn the ball over because he has no coordination skills at that point.
Nice.
Yeah. So I'm just like you. I don't want my kids to beat me yet. I don't let them win in anything, and they got to earn it. And, I don't I probably rub it in their face a little bit too, but I don't go overboard. I think you're meaner about it. I bet you're mean to JJ about it.
I let JJ win for too long, to where I think that he just thought one time where he was just like, okay, I am him. I am the greatest at Nerf basketball there ever was. So then I have to start playing him harder.
You let him win. I didn't think you would be the type of dad.
When he was younger, as he's getting older a little bit, it's like, okay, now I have to actually play a little bit. But we have some intense wiffle ball games out here. We just played the other day, which is cool now because now Milo's old enough or big enough where he can actually kind of play along too. Nice. And it's just usually them two versus me. And It was the bottom of the ninth. Milo hit a ball and got to first base. I had a 1-run lead, and then JJ's up to bat. I have him a 0-2 count, and then he comes back 2-2, and then JJ smokes one over the fence for a walk-off home run.
Man.
And
nice.
I did not let him do that. There's 100%. I was not trying to give up a home run right there. And then I just had to...
Did he bat flip it? Did he bat flip?
He did not do a bat flip. I don't think he did. It was one of those things like a, pitcher. You just watch the ball go over the fence. You stare at it for a second. You're like, oh. I left a curveball hanging. He sat on it.
Man, the bat flip thing in baseball is kind of it's newer. I mean, they never used to do that. I mean, back when I was younger, in major leagues, if you bat flip, the next guy was going to get. You were either going to get beaten the next time you were up, or the next guy was going to get.
Yeah, he was going to take it from you.
Now there's epic bat flips. I mean, I remember Torque earlier this season just slamming his bat on the ground, just me mugged it, looked awesome.
And that's awesome, though. I love that.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, well, I like that. And then the pitchers show emotion, too. So it's kind of relieved both positions. Pitchers couldn't show too much either, but you got like a guy like Scooble on our team that is... he's not showing up the hitter. It's never directed right at the hitter, except for Nito versus the Angels.
Yeah.
Do you watch that?
Right.
Yeah, where Nito was, you got him for a home run.
Right.
And then Nito he struck him out, and Terrek's like, yeah, I got you. And that was Nito was talking first. But Scooble, all his aggression is like totally towards his own dugout as he's going towards. And I think that that's the right way to do it. You could be excited about it. I just don't.
That's adrenaline. That's what makes the game fun, though, too. Yes, I don't understand when people like, oh, I don't like the celebration and blah, blah, blah.
I don't like it when you show up someone. I don't like I just don't think that that's necessary. And I don't like it. It's like if I'm playing with someone basketball, we could talk crap or whatever. But I just, even like for cornhole for me, I'm focused on what I need to do. And I don't get into the crap talk because it just doesn't help any of the situation.
Do you ever hit one on the hole and then you hit him with the bow and arrow celebration?
Yeah, I haven't done that. I've fist pumped and stuff like that. Yeah, I've fist pumped and stuff like that, but nothing in someone's face. And I've had people been kind of crappy with, crappy competitive that I don't like, and I just don't want to play with those people. It's just not that. I love shutting them up by beating them. That's super satisfying, but I'm there to have fun and have a good time. I don't, it's cornhole. We're just throwing bags at the end of the day. But I'm okay with the bat flips too, as long as it's not just like totally they're like staring down the pitcher as they do it. I think that would be crappy. But Shohei did the one the other day where he just like looked at his own dugout and flipped it way up in there. That's cool. I'm down with that.
We went to the Mud Hens game for JJ's birthday, and Akil Badu caught one, man. And it was one of those no doubter. As soon as he cracked it, the whole stadium, just me and JJ too, were like, oh my God. As soon as he hit it, as the ball is like leaving, it's still getting air. He turns around to the dugout and does like a celebration or whatever to the dugout before he even starts running. And this thing hit like the very top of the brick before it would have completely left everything.
Wow. Did you know it was out from the crack of the bat? Was it like the sound that you knew?
Oh, no, absolutely. As soon as he hit it.
Yeah.
And it was one of those things where it's like, how far is this going to go? And it went, as far as possible, another maybe foot taller, a couple inches taller, and it would have cleared everything.
It would have went in the road because the road's on the backside of the Mud Hens.
But yeah, well, Badu's from the left. He's, hitting from the left side. So it's over. There's a building way up in the air. Way up, and there's like some metal on the top, like a metal fence or whatever to protect. There's like a satellite up there, and then there's a banner. It hit the very top of this metal thing. Like it would have taken out the satellite, or it would have went. Yes, yep.
Yeah, it's on the Fricker side. Okay,
no, it would have cleared everything with just a little bit more.
Wow, man, that's awesome.
Right? No, it was cool.
Well, Vierling hit one too. He's hit 2 home runs down in the Mud Hens already. The 2 out of the 3 games he's hit home runs. They have him just DHing right now, so he's not playing the field. So he'll have to get in the field before they'll bring him up. I don't know how long of a window they have in the rehab assignment. I don't know if he has like 2 weeks, or I don't know how long that is in baseball.
Yeah, I don't know.
That you have to do before you get.
He was moving around pretty good. Yeah, he first at bat is when he smoked that one.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, the offense kind of needed them that over the weekend versus the Rangers, but they exploded today.
Came back alive.
14 runs today. So gotta like that. All right, man. I will see you at work tomorrow, but that situation is going to be changing soon, unfortunately, as I took another position. But
Jason's leaving in a free agency contract.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's exciting, but also, as I told you on, text, it's bittersweet. I generally look forward coming every day to work when we work together and just talking, we could talk about sports, breaking news that happened during sports. Although we had to be guarded since we started the podcast about, we want to keep this conversation fresh, so we would not talk about everything. So
lately
we're going to get all our
reciting movie quotes and just different stupid stuff.
Yeah.
It's a good time though.
We're getting ready for our movie podcast. That's coming. We'll have to figure out whether, Talking Grit, does the movies, I guess. But no, that's not going to happen. We don't have enough time for that.
No, not at all.
No, I don't even have barely enough time to watch a movie, let alone, along with all this stuff. So, all right. For Jacob, I'm Jason. We're going to head on out of here and end it with Go Lions.